Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. My name is Ash, and I'm coming at you live tonight, Saturday night, with an Oilers victory in Chicago, 4-3. What do we think? How do we feel? I'm feeling pretty good, I'd say. I have some concerns. Once again, the Oilers have dropped a first period lead to a much worse team than they are, and they have to find themselves clawing back. They did tonight. They played an excellent second period, a great shutdown third period, but when you're looking at that first period, that's definitely a place of concern and has been for this Oilers team for a while. So let's get right into it. Let's get into our first segment here. What is the problem? Well, with this Oilers team, it's all about the first period. This season, the Oilers have 16 losses. 13 of them have come from when they are trailing after one. 13 out of 16. If they're trailing after one, that's where all of their losses are. They very rarely, if ever, lose if they are tied or if they are winning after the first period. That's quite scary for this team, where we've seen consistent issues in starting on time, in starting kind of like anything on time, with, of course, the last playoffs going down in these series against Vancouver, against Dallas, against Florida, obviously, right? And this first period, I really thought only the second line, only Draisaitl's line was playing very well, and then I thought Emerson also had a very good first period. There were some rushes that we were getting. We weren't letting Chicago get that much offensive zone time. I thought that we were making some good passes. We were defending against the rush very well. I thought we had some good chances of our own too, especially Emerson stepping up in a lot of different plays in that first. I think 2 rushes back-to-back were off of his stick, off of pucks that he passed up. He's joining the rush. It's a 3-on-1 all of a sudden. From a young player like that, that's exactly what you want to see, especially when you're playing with someone like Draisaitl, right? A lot of really good chances for the rush, but I'd say back and forth, there wasn't really a lot of extended zone time in this first period. Unfortunately, even with that, the Oilers still found themselves down 2-0 to Chicago, the worst team in the league. How is that possible? So, what's the problem? It's slot defense. It's slot defense all the way around. It's very concerning that on Teuvo Teravainen's goal, the first goal, he's sitting there in the middle of the slot. There are 4 Oilers around him, 3 forwards and a defenseman. This is the top line, by the way. This is McDavid, Hyman, Hopkins, all around him. And Nurse, right, lower than him in the slot. And he's right there, and it's an easy feed for a goal. There's no coverage there. That's a defensive failure of our first line, who I did not think had a very good first period at all. And then on the second goal, Kulak, again with Nurse, who they were on the goal for. It was Kulak Nurse for the first goal against, and then for the second goal against, it's Kulak Nurse again. Kulak just loses Foligno out front. He gets his way back to the other side of the net, and it's in the Oilers net. That's 2-0. That's you can kind of chalk that up to maybe a miscommunication on Kulak Nurse. Again, they're both left-handed defensemen, but that's the risk that I've been saying consistently all season, that when you're playing a second pairing with 2 left-handed defensemen, you are taking a bit of risk, and that's some of the risk right there. Nurse Kulak did not have a good game today when they were playing together. I'll get into other parts of the game, but together they just were not playing very, very well at all, I would say. And skipping ahead a bit to the second period, but I still want to talk about this, because it's, again, slot defense. The Oilers struggle against this. It's just not offensive zone time, not defending against the rush. It's just someone squeaks into the slot, and the Oilers just they just miss it. Brown, multiple turnovers on the same play, and Emerson is beat, having to cover the guy to the slot for Chicago's third goal. All 3 goals just a defensive breakdown just for 1 second, and that's it. Now, I'll get into the Oilers' defense later, but this is, I think, in my mind, the biggest problems that the Oilers have to solve, because I'm consistently seeing, not just in this game, in the Pittsburgh game as well, in many other games, these high danger chances, these high percentage goals right from the middle of the slot. Oilers can have a great defensive structure, but if nobody is there and it's just in the back of the net. How many goals have you seen from the Oilers this season where it's just one guy in the middle of four Oilers and no one is looking to cover? It's definitely a huge issue for this team, and something that I think might be easily exploited by a much better team than the worst team in the league, the Chicago Blackhawks. So there you go. There's what I felt like was really worrying me today. That is our first period, our first section of tonight. As we transition into our second period, our second section, I want to give a little shout out to Hyperdrive Hockey. Shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Hout, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Laramie every Tuesday and Friday. That is every Tuesday and Friday, or for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube or on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Alrighty, into our second period. What is not the problem? What does this Oilers team do very well? And it's playing from behind. I mentioned earlier, 13 out of 16 losses that we had were from when we were trailing after one. Well, when we're not leading after one, when we're either trailing or when we are tied, we're 500 after one. Mind you, the Oilers are a very, very good team. They're one of the best teams in the league in nearly every area right now, especially when it comes to wins and points. And 500 when you're not leaving after one it's a pretty good spot to be in. Mind you, the Oilers don't lose all that much compared to a lot of other teams in this league, and that's not NHL 500. That's real 500. So that's overtime losses included. In this game, we had one high danger chance in the first, according to Natural Stat Trick. In the second, we had 13 high danger chances in the second. And a lot of that is coming from a great second period from our first line, who I did not think had a very good first period. Hyman, Hopkins, and McDavid, second period, lights out. Just amazing offensive chance, one after another. They don't end up getting a goal, but it doesn't matter because our depth scoring, which is another thing that I feel like had a great game and not something that the Oilers do not have a problem with. Depth scoring. Avry in the chat says the third and fourth line have been sneaky productive today. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about here. I have this whole section. The second period is made entirely for that. We get, what is it? I think it's we get 3 goals. We tie it up in this second period. And how do we tie it up? Second line, Nurse. All starts with the defense. It all starts with passing it from the defense. Nurse passes it up to Dry. We break in for the rush. It's Dry to Arvidsson, and Arvidsson behind the net with the beauty of a pass to Podkolzin puts it in for his 5th. Man, Podkolzin, what a pickup. What was it, like a 4th or a 5th round pick? I am so happy he's on this team, and I'm so happy he's playing so well with Draisaitl, and same with Arvidsson. That's just some great passing that starts in the defensive end from Nurse, who, once he started to play with Stetcher, I thought had a really good game today as well. The Oilers' second goal from Henrique, it starts with Kulak, who, when playing with Emberson on that third pairing, I thought had a great game, especially Emberson. But this starts with Kulak. He passes up to Henrique. Henrique passes it to Podkolzin, and here's the key thing. Henrique drives the net after that pass. He doesn't just let the rush continue. He drives the net, which is important because when the puck goes to Emberson, he's there for the tip. It's his goal. Emberson with the beauty of a shot. And there you go. It's 3-2. Then, pretty soon after that, it's Corey Perry and Kasperi Kapanen with just unbelievable hard work. Unbelievable. The work ethic that they put in for that shift. It's just the two of them, battling hard behind the goal line. And it's just a nice wrister on Soderblom, and it's in. There you go. 3-3. That's perfect for what the Oilers need, right? Especially for a team that keeps getting criticized. Oh, it's all McDavid, all Draisaitl. This is supposed to be the year where the Oilers, this is our all in. This is where we're trying to find those solutions to last year where our offense dried up. So for our depth scoring to continue, our third, fourth lines to continue to get goals, that's really, really great. That what you want to hear. And something that was kind of an issue earlier, it's our power play. Our power play is something else. That is not the problem. Best in the league in the last 19. Best in the league in the last 19 games. And it's a switch up. It's a dry with a wrist shot that gets this one. I'm pretty sure Hyman gets credit for the goal because it was his tip, I believe. But oh no, it was like a Hyman goal where he gets the rebound, I think. But regardless, it's not one of your Oilers formulas where it's like you go for the Bush bomb at the point, or you go for the Draisaitl on that right circle. They kind of use that against the Chicago penalty kill. It's playing very passive, right? And that comes in the third period, and that ends up being the winning goal. I think that's like really, really important for this team. And then lastly, in terms of what I thought was doing very well, is I thought our defense played very well overall, especially after that first period. Chicago only had 2 shots in 12 minutes in that third period. After the Oilers, kind of came back from that first period where really Chicago didn't play very well. It was just 2 Oilers defensive breakdowns that led to 2 Chicago goals, just split second like that. And then, multiple turnovers for the third one. The Oilers didn't let Chicago get much of anything at all. I thought they played very good to keep them to the outside. Very responsible. Something that was, I thought, a lot better than especially like Pittsburgh, who even after the Oilers comeback was still, I thought, getting a lot of good chances, especially in that third period the other night. But defensively, this team is very good. It's a very, very good team defensively. We're top 3 in all these offensive stats, and we're top 6 in all these defensive stats, like shots against, expected goals against, high danger, scoring chances, all that stuff. The Oilers are top of the league, especially recently. They're playing very, very well, and I think you have a lot to look forward to if you're an Oilers fan in that situation. Alrighty, moving on into our third period, I'm going to give a bit of a shout out to Graham, host of Game On Edmonton. Game Over has you covered after the game. That's me. But in order to get ready to watch the Oilers, you got to get your game on too. Game On Edmonton is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Edmonton Oilers, hosted by Graham Mosimann. Get all your Oilers news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday on the Game Over Network YouTube channel, and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Edmonton. Thank you. Alrighty. Our third section today, we have a couple questions in the chat. Janias McKay, what can the Oilers do better when versing bottom feeder teams? Seems like they struggle versus bottom feeders. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of that is going to come from, starting on time. If the Oilers, they get that first goal, they're one of the best teams in the league, right? But as I said earlier, 13 out of our 16 losses are when we're trailing after 1. That's, obviously a problem. And, when you look at the Oilers, a team that has, the cup favorites. They're the cup favorites. They have McDavid, best player in the league. They have Draisaitl, Hart front runner right now. Teams are going to show up and they're going to bring their A game because it is like they're going to want to beat the Oilers. They just are, right? It's kind of the same in the NBA with like LeBron. Like players always have their best games against LeBron because it's like, oh my God, I want to play well against LeBron because I've looked up to this guy, right? There are a bunch of players who like highly, highly respect McDavid and Draisaitl, especially if you look at those player polls. Both of them are always voted very highly. And so I think the Oilers need to recognize that. You need to recognize the position they have in the league and know that like a lot of these teams are going to come out and they're going to see the beating the Oilers as a status symbol. They're going to see it as something that, they can take pride in, and the Oilers have to show up with that same drive, especially for these like mid-season like games. Now, if you have heard Jack Michaels talk at all lately, he's been saying that the Oilers' second half is always much better than the first half, and that is just absolutely true. This is the time of the year where the Oilers just completely lock in. They lock in. And if you look at strength of schedule, the Oilers had one of the hardest schedules up until this point to start the year, and they have one of the weakest schedules for the rest of the year. So a lot of these teams are going to be these kind of like Chicago, these Seattle, these San Jose, these like kind of bottom feeder teams that, they could play a little bit of spoiler. Not that it really matters for the Oilers because, they have such a lead on the rest of the division. I think they're 7 points up on Vancouver, even though they won today. Doesn't matter because the Oilers did. The Oilers are now 4 points back of Vegas. They're in a very good spot for the division. I don't think you have a lot to worry about when it comes to standings. Right now, it's mainly about seeing how this team is getting prepared for the playoffs, seeing how, Draisaitl or McDavid or Bouchard or any of these like top players like play for these like individual stats, especially Draisaitl's heart. I really, really do think that he deserves it, and I really hope he wins it because, man, on a team with McDavid, to say that you won the Hart Trophy twice, I think that really will cement Draisaitl as someone who's not just product of McDavid, though. It's hard to see how anybody could say that now. What player are you looking for the team to add in the trade deadline? And also, fantastic commentary once again. Thank you so much. Highly appreciate it. That means a lot. What player are you looking for the team to add? Well, if you heard, Evander Kane is likely to miss even more than what he was originally going to, which means that he's going on to LTIR and means that the Oilers are going to have either the $5 million in cap space for the trade deadline, or they can use the accrued. I'm not 100% sure, but all I know is that it's one or the other because he started the season for a little bit on LTIR. Well, with how well Nurse Stetcher and Emerson Kulak played today, I think that gives a lot of confidence in the defense that we have. But I do think that we should still look for improvements. For example, this isn't an ad or like a trade per se, but Ty Smith just put on waivers by Carolina. He is a really good point-scoring defenseman in the AHL, and has performed well in his 8-game stints that he's had in the NHL for Pittsburgh or for the Hurricanes. I think and he's league minimum $775K. I think that if the Oilers can make a play for him, they absolutely should. There's also, there's also Alex Carrier, I think, but he just got traded to Montreal. That's another defenseman who I would look at for the Oilers, especially on that right-hand side. He looks like he would be a great partner for Darnell Nurse. But I think looking for a seventh option on the D, especially with the fact that like Josh Brown, outside the past like a few games, which he looked like pretty okay in pretty bad competition, to be fair. I really don't think that the Oilers have that seventh option like they did between Darren and Broberg for the playoffs last year. And if we face any injuries, I think that might be a big issue, especially with the minutes we ask of Bouchard and Ekholm, who once again had an amazing game, just absolutely stellar work. I'm going to get into our overtime segment with I'm going to show off some merch for a sec, but if you have any final questions for me tonight after that Blackhawks win, please put them in the chat. I'll answer them, and I'll take a look at anything else. But really quick, I want to show off some merch that we have at the Game Over Network. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it is clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. So whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Alrighty, we get into our final segment today. I don't believe I will wait for any final questions in chat, but while we do, I want to take a look if there is any Oilers post-game that I can doesn't seem so, not that I can look at immediately anyway. Yeah, I just want to make another quick comment about the Oilers' first period, second period, like kind of dilemma. It was the same thing that happened in Pittsburgh the other night. If you haven't scrubbed that brain from that game from your memory already, high danger chances, 6-2 Pittsburgh in the first, 5-0 for the Oilers in the second. It's another game where the Oilers terrible first period, but they came out for the rest of the game. They were working hard. Today, obviously, I didn't think the Oilers had a terrible first period, but I thought there was just a few key breakdowns on all 3 goals that, led to the deficit. And I think the Oilers are a really good team working from behind, but obviously the Oilers are a great team when playing ahead. So I really think that that's something that the Oilers definitely have to work on. Thoughts on Knob sending Jeff to the press box again? Listen, I think Derek Ryan has been playing very, very well recently, especially on that fourth line. I've definitely had some criticism, especially earlier in the season, but I can't fault Derek Ryan being in the lineup tonight. And especially when it came to that Pittsburgh game, I thought Skinner before was playing very well. Of course, he had quite a few games in a row where he was starting to step up his game. But right now, I still think he's probably the 12th or 13th, sometimes best forward on this team. Though, I do believe that he should be getting chances higher up the lineup. If the Oilers are going to play him at all, we have the trade deadline coming up soon. We have Evander Kane, who, of course, his rehab's getting delayed, so we don't know when he's going to come back. If it's going to be for this season, he says he got this surgery now, delaying his rehab so he could come back. But given that, we have Derek Ryan, we have Corey Perry, who can't play every night. We have Jeff Skinner, who if he's not giving that opportunity to shine, obviously he's not gonna be the 20-30 goal scorer that we know he can be. We have Evander Kane, we have Matthias Janmark, who some nights who will play very well, some nights they'll play very, very not well. I really don't know. When he was playing with Hyman on that third line, I think for a game or two, I thought that that was a really good way to rejuvenate that third line. But obviously, we went back to the Hyman, Hopkins, McDavid first line for tonight, which in that second period just played absolutely wonderfully. And with Colson even moved down to the third line for a few shifts, ended up getting a goal with Henrique. So I really don't know. I really don't know where Jeff Skinner's place in this team is right now. I think it's hard to say what his future is with this team. He obviously only has the 1-year contract, but it is no move. I believe it is a no movement clause. And man, how much it would suck to be Jeff Skinner, to join the Oilers, your Cup favorites, and now you're a healthy scratch half of the nights, and maybe you get traded. to open up salary space. Because I don't know where he fits on this roster. I mean, if we don't see him in the top 6 like we did at the beginning of the season, if Knoblauch never gives him that chance, how will we ever know what he's going to do? It's hard for me to say anything until he gets that opportunity, because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here and saying the same thing every night, because I'm just going to tell you, yeah, I mean, I think right now on the 3rd and 4th line, he's probably the 12th best forward on the Oilers. Like, there's not much he can do about that in that position, but maybe if he gets moved up the lineup, he could have that. But until we see that, it really is hard to make any kind of conclusion from my perspective at least. Already, if there are no final questions for tonight, I'm going to be sending you off with a good night and some good feelings. After an Oilers win 4-3, we're now, still 7-2-1 in our last 10, maybe 8-2, something like that. Oilers still playing very well, still near the top of the league. A lot to be happy about if you're an Oilers fan, especially after that terrible first period against Pittsburgh. I will see you on another night. Hope you have a good night. Hope you have a good day tomorrow. See ya.